your host, Grayson Grunhafer, and today let's stick with the Big 12. There was a huge matchup or a couple huge matchups that happened last week, but it really leads into where College Game Day is going this week, and also just two teams that are trending in a very positive direction as the calendar has turned now towards November. It's Texas Longhorns versus the TCU Horned Frogs. So let's start with what they did last week. Texas beat Kansas State 34-27. This is big for Texas, and I'm sure a lot of people have talked about this, but the simple fact that they were able to hold on to a lead in the second half in Big 12 play under Steve Sarkisian is a massive improvement. And they almost didn't. They did everything they could to try to throw this game away because they just did not play very well in the second half. They were up 31-10. It could have been even bigger than that. Could have been 38-10 the way they were playing. And, of course, the Roschon Johnson play, the strip as well. This could have been even worse. But you go to the second half, Kansas State adjusted. It ends up being a 34-27 game with Kansas State having an opportunity to win the game late. In general, though, Texas was really good. Texas played a very nice game of football. It wasn't a complete game because of the second half, but I think they did everything they wanted to do, right, going into this game. They wanted to establish the run. They wanted to take away Kansas State's ability to run the football. They wanted to get Bijan Robinson going, and they wanted Quinn Ewers to, I think, get more comfortable on the road, right? This was his second opportunity in a true road game to see how he would do, and I think he performed much better than in his first go-around. So he had 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. I would say he was solid. Didn't do anything crazy, but if you watch the game, he was a pretty good game manager, really good in the first half, okay in the second half, was good enough for them to win this game. But the key for this team was how they ran the football. 269 yards rushing on 40 carries. Bijan Robinson, 30 carries for 209 yards. The offense line was dominant. And the other big part of this was they didn't give up a single sack. They only gave up 3 QB hurries. And in my eyes, when I watched this game, I thought back to the Oklahoma State game that they played. And they simply could not stop the pressure of the Oklahoma State Cowboys in that one. But in this one, they did much better against a team that's also very good at getting after the quarterback. I thought Texas's offensive line was really the key group in this game that kind of determined the outcome. And then defensively, I mentioned the yards on the ground, right? They only gave up 139 yards rushing. That's fantastic against a very good Kansas State rushing attack. On the flip side, TCU, they beat Texas Tech 34-24. They knocked out another starting quarterback as Behren Morton got hurt early in this game. Tyler Shugg had to come in. Did not go horribly, but it did not go great either. I think they missed Behren Morton. I do think he is clearly better than the other quarterbacks that they have. That's just a personal opinion. I know some will say they're about the same. I don't see it. I think Behren is a pretty good player and is going to be the future there for the Red Raiders. Tech was up 17-13 with 13 minutes and 25 seconds left in the game. And then TCU did what they've done all year, and their second half TCU team just came to play, right? And they really dug deep. They pushed the score out to 34-17 and basically left no doubt in this football game by the end of it. Max Duggan continues to just be okay. He ended with 195 yards and 2 touchdowns. He only completed 12 of 23 passes. I will say, though, their top receiver, one of the best receivers in the country, Quentin Johnston, was basically out for the entire game. So that hurts. That hurts your offense, especially if you were game planning to really feature him that week, which most weeks they do game plan for that. I love that TCU decided kind of towards the end of this game, especially the fourth quarter, they decided, hey, Max Duggan is playing okay, but let's run the football. Let's get Kendre Miller the ball, and let's just go let him and the offense line win them this game. That's exactly what they did, and it worked. He ended up with 158 yards on 21 carries. The TCU defense had 4 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hurries. If you look at the box score, you're going to see that Tech ran for 195 yards. Don't be deceived by that. They had 71 yards come on their last drive of the game when TCU was up 34-17. It was true garbage time, those extra yards. So really TCU did a great job stopping the run and the pass. They only gave up 157 yards passing, which again, in my eyes, is a big thing with Behren Morton not being there. I think that helped, but still, I felt like this was actually one of the better defensive performances that TCU has played this season. So let's dive into the matchup. Here's an issue with TCU that I'm having currently. Their passing efficiency is going down and down and down as the season goes on. In the first 5 games, Max Duggan completed 65%, 82%, 77%, 71%, and 70% of his passes. Since then, he doesn't have one game over 66% completion percentage, and he has 3 that are under 58%. The last 2 have been particularly bad, but the Frogs have relied on their run game. They've ran for 207 yards per game those last 4 games. They're averaging 4.7 yards per carry. So they've kind of shifted a little bit, and they've been able to find ways to run the football even with their passing game not being up to what it was early in the season. Unfortunately for TCU, they're facing a Texas team that has the best run defense they faced all year, as Texas is 32nd in the country in run defense. And the best run defense they faced is West Virginia, who's currently 53rd in the country, and they only ran for 153 yards in that game. So in their last 4, when they're averaging this 207 yards, that comes with this 153-yard game against West Virginia, by far their worst total during that stretch. And now they're facing a much better run defense. It's concerning. It's also concerning when the fact of the matter is their next 3 games are against Texas, Baylor, and Iowa State, who are going to be the best 3 run defenses they have faced all season. I don't know. It might be tough. If they're not throwing the ball better, they might run into some problems going forward. I think the key here is Max Duggan, right? I think that's pretty obvious based on what I just talked about with the run defense. They need Quentin Johnston to be healthy. Hopefully he is. Hopefully we get to see fully healthy game between both of these teams. But I'm a little concerned here. Because, again, Texas hasn't allowed anyone to run for more than 161 yards, so I think best bet is TCU will probably run for 150. That's my best bet. But like I said, you rely on Max Duggan because of this simple reason. In 3 straight games for Texas, they're giving up 329 yards at least and 60% completion percentage. It's going to be there for Duggan. The throws are going to be there. The opportunities are going to be there. Now, he is absolutely going to have to live up to the hype that everyone's been giving him throughout the season. And I think there's a chance that he does. But the question is, will it be enough? Will the TCU defense be able to get enough stops against Texas? I'm not so sure on that, especially when you look at this number. TCU's given up at least 141 yards on the ground in 6 straight games. So you're going to go ahead and mark in with a Sharpie 150 yards for Texas on the ground on Saturday, and I think you can probably write in pencil 200 yards. And I don't know if TCU can survive that. Because if Texas is able to run the football on you at home, I think that's going to allow Quinn Ewers to really feel comfortable and get some easy opportunities throwing the football, especially when you kind of take into effect that Texas hasn't played a home game in a month. So Quinn Ewers has been on the road going to these terrible places to play in Stillwater and Manhattan that are really tough for any quarterback, especially a quarterback that hasn't played many road games. Now he gets to come home. You feel great about your rushing attack, and you're going to get opportunities in the play-action game to create some explosive plays. I think that's a recipe for disaster, honestly, for this TCU football team. So Texas is a 7-point favorite. The over-under is 64.5 points. I got Texas in this one. I'm a little hesitant on whether they're going to cover or not. Right now I have it 37-30. That's kind of how I see this game playing out. So I kind of have it as a push. I'm leaning towards it being a close game, though, because it's the Big 12. So if I had to put money on this, I would say the TCU covers, but Texas wins this game outright, or Texas wins this game. I also have the over, obviously, since I have it in the 30s, 37-31, which would be just slightly over at 68 points. I think this is going to be a good game, and these are 2 teams trending up, but I think this Texas team is playing their best football the entire season, and I think TCU is kind of due for a little bit of a letdown or maybe a game where they get down and can't quite come all the way back in the end. But I will say, though, when you look at the track record, you look at what TCU has done in the second half and what Texas has typically done in the second half with Steve Sarkisian, watch out. Watch out if Texas does build a huge lead. Watch out for TCU to come back in this one and for me to be completely wrong. We'll see, though, but I'll take the Longhorns in this one. So stay tuned. Later in the week, I'll have some more episodes talking about various things, including the Heisman and my best bets later in the week. So thanks for listening to Crystal Ball College Football.